the Phillies right now aren't in a situation of having a need to make the flashiest, sexiest, as Jamie always says, deals down in Nashville right now. It's just about those complementary pieces. So ahead of Rob Thompson, who's going to be speaking at 1:40, is his presser. What is it that you're hoping to hear from Rob in that?
You know, I'm hoping to hear from Rob that I think we'll hear. I think we'll hear the typical lines. He's happy with the team he has now. They're good enough to win as the team is presently uh, constituted, and what else can he really say? Now, in the back of his mind, he absolutely wants an infusion of new talent, or even if it's, we've talked in previous episodes here, it doesn't even have to be superstar upgrades. You could even make some changes, some lateral moves to switch it up a little bit and bring in folks that maybe uh, bring a little bit of a better mix. We have a lot of the same types of hitters. Maybe you send out somebody with a high chase rate, a power guy for somebody with more contact, more on base percentage. I don't expect to hear much of that from Rob. I expect him to say, he loves his guys. He's going to back his guys up. That's one of the best attributes about him. Um, but if we can read between the lines and get a few nuggets from Rob about what he thinks the team needs, I think that's what I'd like to hear if he's willing to be forthcoming with that.
Yeah. So, John, Michael Taylor, like that type of level of player is probably about as sexy as the Phillies are going to get. We just went through the payroll numbers. They're at 252 million projected already, the third highest in baseball. They, as of now, are spending more than the New York Yankees. Like, any other guys you've heard mentioned down there and talking to Phillies reporters, any other outfield names pop up? Because to me, like, this is a position of need. I don't believe for a second what Dave Dombrowski is saying, that they're all set. Any other names you've heard kind of mentioned in that, sub-tier category of outfielders, particularly right-handers?
There has not been. I mean, the Phillies haven't been tied to much of anything here, which is surprising. Hopefully, it changes today. As soon as we get some of that information, I'll put it right out there. But for the most part, no, they're just not players this year, and I think it's in large part due to the payroll, like you said, Jamie. I mean, it doesn't make for a fun week right now for Phillies fans, but if you step back and take a look at it, this is an enviable position to be in, to have your team mostly set. And yes, they should add an outfielder, a reliever, a few more tweaks here and there. But one thing I've noticed being down here, speaking to folks from other teams, there's a lot of teams with enormous holes to fill, and they're desperately hoping that they can get Otani, that they can get Yamamoto, and while those would be spectacular additions to any team, including the Phillies, um, it's you you should rather be us than them when it comes to this stuff. That you know a a fairly tame winter meetings from the Phillies is not necessarily a bad thing. It's always more fun if they make a splash, if they make big moves. They've done that a number of years in a row now, and again, I think that's why they're looking at bulking up the coach. And they have players that they think are good enough to win the World Series. Honestly, I believe they are good enough to win the World Series. They have been for a couple of years, and they just didn't get it done. So at some point, the onus is on those players, those superstars, step up, make it happen.
Yeah, I know I'm seeing in the chat some chatter about, Carpet is Cool wants to re-sign Reese Hoskins. I know people are talking about different things. So as we know, the Phillies specifically haven't been in chats of any serious major moves. But Jamie and I haven't even had a chance to dive into the other hot stove news around the league. Of course, there's different updates, whether it's Ohtani being rumored to possibly go to the Blue Jays and other things. What have you heard outside of the Phillies in terms of moves? I know right now you're kind of just sitting back, I won't say relaxing, but sitting back a little bit more because the Phillies aren't expected to make any flashy deals, especially this week. Whereas we are hearing the constant rumors about other teams looking to lock in these major prospects, whether it's Ohtani or Bellinger or different people. What have you heard down in Nashville in terms of some potential updates?
I think the most talk uh, this morning has really been about the possibility of Otani to the Blue Jays. There's a report last night that Otani was talking to the Jays organization in Florida. Um, and I know it definitely has our Chicago buddies a little concerned. Um, but what can you really make of that? There's tons of gamesmanship going on. There's this whole concept that Otani was planning to eliminate anyone if there were leaks about who he was talking to. He wanted to keep it sort of secretive, that they would automatically be out of the conversation. I don't know if I believe that. um, you could even think that maybe they were sort of gamed by another organization. Um, but Otani continues to be and will be throughout this week. He's going to be the main topic of conversation. I would say the second biggest thing I've heard, non-Phillies related, is that the Padres and Yankees, despite some talk yesterday that they were still pretty far apart, there seems to be an emerging consensus here that these two teams really need to work that out with each other. That it's a great deal for could be a great deal for both teams. Makes all the sense in the world, and sort of the vibe is that people think Soto and the Yankees will work it out. Now that's just this morning. Yesterday it sounded completely different. Uh, One thing to remember here is that everything you hear, just take it with a grain of salt, because 2 hours later you might hear something completely different.